The Atari 7800 has had a few distinct eras during its lifespan. It started with GCC being firmly at the wheel, and dictating its starting point as a console that brought early 80s arcade games to the home. Many of Atari's strongest offerings were represented in this era, along with some of the most popular arcade titles in general. Asteroids, Joust, Miss Pac-Man, Dig Dug, Pole Position, and others started the console's life off, albeit a few years too late. It was ready in 1984 to hit the market, but the sale of Atari from Warner to the Tramiels created a situation where the Atari 7800 had to sit for some 2 years, give or take, before hitting store shelves. And when it finally came out, it released with the 1984 launch lineup, something that felt dated in 1986. The console at this point was nothing more than a product to help right the ship that was Atari, and fund the projects that Jack Tramiel really wanted brought to market. Supporting the Pro system with software was not something that Jack really completely worried about, but it was still something that needed to be done. Enter Michael Katz, who became the head of Atari's video game division at this time, and was given the unenviable task of bringing software to the many consoles that Atari was supporting. 2600 Junior, 7800 Pro system, XE game system, and heck, they even had their own line of computers, all of which required software to keep consumers happy with their initial purchase. But it would be no easy task, as Nintendo gobbled up the rights to many of the most popular titles, and required exclusivity agreements with third-party developers to ensure they had the latest and greatest titles on their up-and-coming Nintendo Entertainment System, or Famicom in their home of Japan. Michael Katz decided to leverage his relationships with computer software developers to get some of the more advanced and popular computer games to the 7800 instead. Thanks to his time at Epix, he was able to bring over games like Impossible Mission, Tower Toppler, Summer and Winter Games, Jinx, Ace of Aces, and a few others. This was something to be sure, but software came slow, and releases were far and few in between.
Winter Games and Skyfox will be released to take advantage of the 7800's great graphics, lifelike animation, and superb sound effects. Plus, there will be other hot new titles from such top software companies as Activision, Electronic Arts, Rotorbund, and Epix.
In all honesty, Mr. Katz was more concerned about electronic toys than video games, and had entered Atari in hopes of proceeding with some other items he was excited to bring to market. But when it became clear that his job stopped and started with the video game division, he soon made the decision to move on from Atari. But given the extraordinarily difficult task of attaining software and competing against Nintendo and Sega, on a small budget with a lot going against him no less, he did admirable at his job. He managed to bring newer arcade hits to the console like Crossbow, levied Atari's previous agreements to get Donkey Kong and Donkey Kong Jr., along with Mario Bros. To the 7800, and finished bringing popular computer titles like Choplifter and a port of Dandy to the Pro system. But today, I want to focus on the console's end of life, and the crazy list of games that released during that time. Because some people love the 7800's excellent arcade ports, a few madmen love the computer games brought to the living room, but some people love the chaos and incredible imagination that came at the console's end of life. So without any more backstory, let's look at these last few games and give a little bit of information on what makes them so special. Meltdown. I wanted to start with Meltdown because I have little to say about it. Light guns were popular home peripherals at the time, and one that every Nintendo owner enjoyed. But you had to know about the XE game system, and its light gun to at least enjoy these games on the 7800. Meltdown requires you to blow up tiny enemies before they can corrupt the core of your reactor and blow up the entire city, or even the world. It's a game that has little to look at in the visual department, and it's pretty hard to play, even with the best light gun setup available. Out of the many late-release titles, this was the one that I want to get over with as soon as possible, because it's the worst of the bunch if you ask me. Mean 18 Golf. This is another computer-inspired game, and sports seem to be a big deal for Atari at this time. But this is possibly the only sports sim to hit the system, at least at the end of the console's life. It plays really well, however, and if you know modern golf titles, then the driving and putting will be pretty familiar to you. Mean 18 isn't bad, and the graphics look pretty good as well. I think that every console needs a good golf game, but I really wish the Pro system would have got some other releases before this one. Still, if you have the chance to pick up or even just play Mean 18 Golf, I say give it a go. Motorcycle. Now this game is interesting, and some people think it's what the unreleased game, Super Stunt Cycle, turned into. It appears to use similar coding, or at least the same visual tricks as Pole Position 2. But this time you're on a motorcycle instead of a Formula 1 car, and you have the ability to make insane jumps while riding on the track. Motorcycle has its charms, but the box and title art brings to mind games like Road Rash, so the contents of this cartridge can be considered a little mundane, and possibly disappointing thanks to this. Still, Motorcycle embodies this crazy, rebellious theming of Atari's late-in-life releases on the Pro system, and because of that, I love it. Scrapyard Dog. Mario Mania was in full swing, and everybody knew who Mario, Luigi, Bowser, and Princess Peach was. And it was all thanks to the amazing side-scrolling platformers that Mario and Friends starred in. Because of this, these platformers became a huge part of the video game market. Yet, Atari was slow to adopt. Scrapyard Dog introduced us to Louie and Scraps, in a game where the former must save the latter after being kidnapped. Dog-napped, I guess. Anyway, you work through a series of junkyards, sewers, and cities to find your canine companion. The game was nowhere near the success that Mario was, or what Atari had surely hoped for, but Scrapyard Dog has its charms, and eventually saw life continued on the Lynx. And the Lynx was a better version of the game, according to most people. Still, I enjoy Scrapyard Dog for what it is, and if you think you've played every platformer out there, well, then give this one a go. Fatal Run. The big thing you'll notice about a lot of these late Atari games is that they have a lot in common with many popular titles of the time. Atari had started reaching out to devs to create exclusive titles for the Pro system, and so you get a lot of neat gems. Case in point is Fatal Run. It was done by Sculptured Software and follows the visual style and loose gameplay elements of other titles such as Rad Racer and Road Blasters. You drive a fast sports car and have to shoot bad guys off the road as you enter post-apocalyptic towns with valuable life-saving items. If you go too slow, the population will dwindle, and so do your profits. But if you're fast and successful, you can load your car out with oil slick traps, turbochargers, and armor-plated panels. Fatal Run gets repetitive, but it once again embodies the grimy, dirty, rebellious nature of Atari and its late Pro system releases. Ikari Warriors. Ikari Warriors was handed off to Imagineering for a very late release on the Pro system, and it came out after several other ports. But that didn't matter, because the game was done well, and made for some intense shooting action, in line with Commando and Tank Command on the 7800. You travel upward on the screen as you power up your character and begin shooting everything in sight. While other home ports had trouble emulating the arcade's unique control scheme, this Atari version wisely ignores that and just makes Ikari Warriors a strong, but challenging run-and-gun game. Given its late release on the console, it can be hard to track down copies, but the game is very much worth playing and experiencing, no matter what route you have to go to experience this version. Xenophobe. I recently covered this one here on the channel, so I won't spend long on Xenophobe. Much like Ikari Warriors, it's based on a popular arcade game, and these two titles mark the Pro System's end of strong home arcade ports. Xenophobe is a game like no other, and while the 7800 version is lacking a lot of the charm from the arcade, it's still pretty fun. I really love this port of Xenophobe, and I recommend it if you have the opportunity to play it. There's nothing else quite like it on the Pro System. Ninja Golf. Ninja Golf is one of the most well-known late releases, simply because of the absurdity of it. Developed by Blue Sky Software, you take on the role of a ninja attempting to become a master. And the only way to prove that you're worthy is to complete 9 holes of Ninja Golf, where you hit a golf ball and then fight other ninjas, snakes, gophers, sharks, and more on your way to the next shot. People either love it or hate it, with very few landing somewhere in the middle. But I believe if Atari had demonstrated this level of creativity throughout the life of the 7800, the console would be much better remembered. Midnight Mutants. Midnight Mutants was the last title released on the Pro System, and boy did it go out with a bang. Featuring the likeness of Al Lewis, who plays the protagonist's grandfather, you must go on an adventure to rescue him and save the world from the deadly Dr. Evil. It's a nice long-form adventure for the system, and one of my personal favorites. Developed by Radioactive Software, I really hope that this game is given a modern release, even if alterations have to be made from the original. Planet Smashers. Planet Smashers is a shooter with some weird enemies and pretty basic premise. You power up your ship's firepower multiple times as you attempt to destroy an alien fleet before it makes its way to Earth and destroys it. The Earth has its own shield, and you will see a game over if that shield's depleted. But you'll also see a game over if you run out of your stock of lives. Add in a system where you have to collect colored orbs, and you have a game with several unique systems in an attempt to keep things interesting. Too bad it sounds like crap. Alien Brigade. Alien Brigade has a unique relationship with the previous title, where each game is a sequel and prequel to one another. You'll have to complete them both to understand what I mean, but one game leads right into the other and vice versa. Alien Brigade was done by Scrapyard Software, and it's a fantastic light gun game for the system. Some people compare it to Operation Wolf, but no matter what other game it's like, Alien Brigade is an excellent late release on the Pro System, with a very fun premise and tons of personality. And there you have it, an eclectic collection of late-release Atari 7800 games that constituted a late push in the system's life. And I personally loved them. If the 7800 had been able to release titles like this during the console's whole life, then maybe it could have carved out its own niche among the community. Or a bigger one, I should say. But I also love the things that Michael Katz did with the system leading up to this grand finale. He had to get clever with where and how he found titles, but perhaps the answer lied in with consigning games with young and upcoming developers like they did at the end of the life. Blue Sky Software, Scrapyard Software, Radioactive, Imagineering, and even DataFast Computer Services really supplied Atari with some great titles that kept the Pro System in people's minds for many years after the console's retail life. So much so that many talented hobbyist programmers have been pushing the console's limits with more fun games for the last 15 to 20 years. But with that, you've heard what I've had to say in this video, so now it's time to hear from all of you. Do you enjoy the late released Atari 7800 games? Do you prefer the earlier stuff? If so, why? And what's your favorite late release game on the system? Let me know your answers to these questions and anything else you have to say in the comments down below. And please, leave a like if you made it this far in the video, and subscribe if you haven't already. We're trying to get to 7,800 subscribers before the end of the year. And if we do, I'll be giving away a special Pac-Man Edition Atari 2600 Plus console. So subscribe for a chance to get it, and I'll have more details when we reach our goal. Okay guys, time to wrap up another video. I've been the 7800 Pro Gamer, a man who must now prove his worth in 9 holes of Ninja Golf after taking a fatal run through an alien brigade and Midnight Mutants here at the Atari Network. And I'd like to thank you all for watching. And until next time, remember to stay classy, Atarians.